Hello and welcome to the 213th episode of Scripture in a Year, hosted by Saints Peter and Paul Orthodox Church in the Albanian Archdiocese of the OCA. Today's reading is from the book of Daniel, chapters 5 to 8. Belshazzar the king made a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles, and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. While he tasted the wine, Belshazzar commanded to bring in the golden and silver vessels which Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had brought from the temple in Jerusalem, so the king, his nobles, his concubines, and his wives might drink from them. Thus the gold and silver vessels which he had brought from the temple of God in Jerusalem were brought in, and the king, his nobles, his concubines, and his wives drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods made of gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, and stone. In the same hour the fingers of a man's hand came forth and wrote opposite the lamp on the plaster of the wall in the king's house. And the king saw the knuckles of the hand that wrote. Then the appearance of the king changed, and his thoughts troubled him greatly. The joints of his hips were loosened, and his knees knocked against each other. So the king cried aloud to bring in the magicians, the Chaldeans, and the diviners. He spoke to the wise men of Babylon, saying, Whoever reads this writing and makes known its interpretation to me, he shall be clothed with purple and wear a gold chain around his neck. He shall also be the third ruler in my kingdom. Now all the king's wise men entered, but they could not read the writing or make known the interpretation to the king. So Belshazzar the king was greatly troubled, and his appearance changed in him. Thus his nobles were very distressed. Then the queen entered the banquet hall and spoke, saying, O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom, in whom is the Spirit of God. In the days of your father, vigilance and understanding were found in him, and King Nebuchadnezzar, your father, made him the chief of the enchanters, the magicians, the Chaldeans, and the diviners. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, discernment, understanding, interpreting dreams, revealing things to be grasped, and explaining difficult sayings were found in Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now, therefore, let him be summoned, and he will tell you its interpretation. Then Daniel was led in before the king, and the king said to Daniel, Are you the Daniel from the children of the captives of Judea, whom my father the king brought here? I have heard of you, that the Spirit of God is in you, and vigilance, understanding, and an excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the magicians, the diviners, came before me to read this writing, and to make known its interpretation, but they could not reveal it to me. Then I heard about you, that you are able to interpret matters requiring a judgment. Now, therefore, if you can read the writing and make known its interpretation to me, you will be clothed in purple and wear a gold chain around your neck. You shall also be the third ruler in my kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let your gifts be for yourself, and give the privilege of your house to another, but I will read the writing for the king, and make known its interpretation to you. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father a kingdom, majesty, honor, and glory. So because of the majesty he gave him, all peoples, tribes, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished he put to death, whomever he wished he afflicted, whomever he wished he exalted, and whomever he wished he humbled. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was hardened with arrogance, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and his honor was taken from him. Then he was driven from men. His heart was made like that of a wild animal, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him grass like an ox, and his body was covered with the dew of heaven, until he came to know that the Most High God rules over the kingdom of men, and will give it to whomever he will. But you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. Nevertheless, you lifted yourself up against the Lord God of heaven, and brought the vessels of his house before you. You, your nobles, your concubines, and your wives drank wine from them, and praised the gods of gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see, or hear, or know. But you have not glorified the God who holds your breath in his hand, and knows all your ways. Therefore the finger of the hand was sent by him, and he ordered this writing. So this is the writing he ordered. Mene, tekel, upharsin. Now this is the interpretation of each word. Mene, God has measured your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, he weighed you on the scales, but you were found lacking. Upharsin, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel in purple, put a gold chain around his neck, and proclaimed him to be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was put to death. Now Darius the Mede received the kingdom. He was 62 years old. It pleased Darius to set 120 governors over the kingdom, so they might be throughout the entire kingdom. He also set 3 administrators above these, one of whom was Daniel, so the governors might give account to them, that the king might not be troubled. But Daniel excelled beyond them, because there was an excellent spirit in him, and the king set him over his entire kingdom. The administrators and governors sought to find some charge against Daniel, but they could find no charge or wrongdoing or fault against him, because he was faithful. Then the administrators said, "We will find nothing against Daniel unless we find it in the laws of his God." So the administrators and the governors stood before the king and said to him, "King Darius, live forever. All the commanders, governors, and highest officials, and the regional officers have consulted together to establish a royal statute and a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except from you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, therefore, O king, establish the decree and exhibit the writing publicly, so the decree of the Medes and Persians cannot be changed." Then King Darius gave orders to write the decree. Now when Daniel learned that the decree was posted, he entered his house, where the windows facing Jerusalem were open to him in the upper rooms. And he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, and prayed and gave thanks to his God, as he was doing before. Then those men who watched Daniel closely and found him praying and making supplication before his God. So they approached the king and said, "O king, did you not give orders that any man who petitioned anything from any god or man, except from you, he would be cast into the den of lions?" The king replied, saying, "The word is true, and the decree of the Medes and Persians shall not pass away." Then they answered and said before the king, "Daniel, who is from the captives of Judea, does not obey your order concerning the decree you commanded, for he prays and petitions his God 3 times a day." Then when the king heard this word, he was very sad in himself, and he struggled hard to deliver Daniel, and did his best to deliver him until evening. And those men said to the king, "Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians, that no decree or statute the king establishes can be altered." After that the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king said to Daniel, "Your God whom you serve continually, he will deliver you." Then they brought a stone and placed it over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his ring and with the ring of his nobles, so the matter concerning Daniel might not be changed. The king then went to his house and spent the night without his evening meal, for they brought no meats to him, and his sleep departed from him. Now God shut the mouths of the lions, and they did not trouble Daniel. Then the king arose early in the morning at daybreak, and went in haste to the den of lions. As he approached the den, he cried with a loud voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the mouth of the lions?" Daniel said to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions, so they did not destroy me, because uprightness was found in me before him, and I did no wrongdoing in his sight." Then the king rejoiced greatly over him, and gave orders to bring Daniel out of the den, and no corruption was found in him, because he believed in his God. The king then gave orders, and they brought the men who brought charges against Daniel, and they cast them, their children, and their wives into the den of lions. They did not reach the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces. Now Darius the king wrote to all the peoples, tribes, and languages who dwell in all the earth, "May peace be multiplied to you. A decree was made in my presence that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, because he is the living God. He endures unto the ages. His kingdom shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall continue to the end. He helps and rescues and works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, for he delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." So Daniel prospered in the kingdom of Darius and in the kingdom of Cyrus the Persian. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, Daniel saw a dream and visions in his head upon his bed. Then he wrote down the dream. "I, Daniel, looked on in my vision in the night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven blew violently upon the great sea. Then 4 large beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lioness, and it had wings like an eagle. I looked on until its wings were plucked out, and it was driven from the earth, and made to stand on human feet, and a human heart was given to it. After this, behold, there was a second beast like a bear. It rose up on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth, between its teeth. Thus they said to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I kept looking, and behold, There was another beast like a leopard, and it had the 4 wings of a bird on its back. There were also 4 heads on the beast, and authority was given to it. After this I looked, and behold, a 4th beast, fearful, terrifying, and exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth, and it was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling underfoot whatever was left. It was exceedingly different from all the beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. I was especially noticing its horns, and behold, there was another horn, a little one. It came up among them, and the 3 horns of those before it were uprooted because of its presence, and behold, there were eyes like the eyes of a man in the horn, and it had a mouth speaking arrogant things. I continued to watch until the thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days enthroned himself. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair on his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, and its wheels burning fire. A river of fire flowed from before him. Thousands and thousands ministered to him, and countless thousands stood before him. The court was in session, and the books were opened. Then I kept watching because of the sound of the arrogant words the horn was speaking. I watched until the beast was put to death and destroyed, and its body given to the burning flame. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, yet length of life was given them for a season and a time. I continued to observe the vision in the night, and behold, one like the Son of Man was coming with the clouds of heaven, until he came to the Ancient of Days and approached him. Then dominion, honor, and kingdom were given him, and all peoples, tribes, and languages served him. His authority is an everlasting authority, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom shall not be destroyed. My spirit within me trembled with fear, and the visions in my head troubled me. Then I approached one of those who stood by, and sought the precise meaning of all this from him. So he told me the precise meaning, and made known to me the interpretation of the words. These 4 large beasts are 4 kingdoms. They shall arise on the earth and be taken away. After this, the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess it until ages of ages. Then I sought the precise meaning of the 4th beast, for it was different from all the others. It was exceedingly fearful, and its teeth were made of iron, and its nails of bronze. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling underfoot whatever was left. The 10 horns on its head, and the other horn, which had eyes and a mouth that spoke arrogant things, and the vision of which I noticed more than the rest, came up and knocked down the 3 horns before it. So I kept looking, and that horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came and gave his judgment in favor of the saints of the Most High. Then the time arrived, and the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, The 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which shall surpass all the kingdoms, and it shall devour all the earth, and trample and break it in pieces. Its 10 horns are 10 kings. They shall arise, and after them another shall arise. He shall surpass all those before him in evils, and he shall humble 3 kings. He will speak extremely arrogant words, and wear down the saints of the Most High. He will devise a way to change times and law, and he shall be given authority for a time, times and a half. But the court shall go into session, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. Then the kingdom, the authority, and the greatness of the kingdom under heaven shall be given to the saints of the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. This is the end of my account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubled me, my countenance changed, but I kept the matter to myself. In the 3rd year of Belshazzar's reign, a vision was revealed to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. I was in Shushan, in the palace, in the province of Elam, and I saw in the vision that I was by the Ulai river. Then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, one ram stood before the Ulai, and it had horns. The horns were high, but one was higher than the other. The higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, and no animal could withstand him or deliver from his power. But he did according to his will and became great. As I was considering this, behold, a male goat came from the southwest across the surface of all the earth, without touching the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between its eyes. Then he came to the ram that had the horns, which I saw standing before the Ulai, and ran at him with furious power. I saw him running at the ram and attacking him savagely. He struck the ram and broke both his horns. There was no strength in the ram to withstand him, but he cast him to the ground and trampled him. There was no one that could deliver the ram from his power. So the male goat became exceedingly great, and when he became strong, his large horn was broken, and 4 horns came up under him toward the 4 winds of heaven. Then from one of them 1 strong horn came forth, strong and exceedingly great, toward the south, and the east, and toward the host. He exalted himself to the host of heaven, and some of the heavenly hosts and stars fell to the earth, and he trampled them under foot, until the chief captain delivered the host of captives. For because of him sacrifice was thrown down, and it came about that he prospered. But the sanctuary was to become desolate. For the sin offering was offered as long as there was sacrifice, but he cast righteousness on the ground, and although he did this, he prospered. Then I heard one of the saints speaking, and another saint said to that one speaking, How long will the vision stand, and the sacrifice be taken away, and the sin offering which was offered be desolated, and the sanctuary and host be trampled under foot? He replied to him, Until 2,300 days of evening and morning, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So it came about that when I, Daniel, saw the vision and sought to understand it, then, behold, the vision of a man stood before me. I heard the voice of this man in the midst of the Ulai, and he called and said, Gabriel, cause that man to understand the vision. Thus he came and stood near where I was standing, and when he came, I was astonished and fell on my face. Then he said to me, Understand, son of man, for the vision is yet for the end of the time. Now when he spoke with me, I fell on my face to the ground, but he touched me and stood me on my feet. Then he said, Behold, I will make known to you what shall take place in the last time of wrath. For the vision is yet for the end of time. The ram you saw with its horns is the king of the Medes and Persians. The male goat is the king of the Greeks, and the great horn between its eyes is the first king. When that horn is broken and 4 horns stand under it, 4 kings from that nation shall arise, but not with its might. Then in the latter time of their kingdom, when sins are fulfilled, a king shall arise, shameless in countenance, and he will understand riddles. His strength will be mighty, and he shall destroy terribly. He shall prosper and take action and destroy the mighty and the holy people. The yoke of his chain shall prosper. There will be treachery in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. He shall destroy many with deceit, and stand for the destruction of many. He will crush them like an egg in his hand. Now the vision of the evening and the morning that was told is true. Therefore seal the vision, because it refers to many days in the future. Then I, Daniel, fell asleep and was sick for days. After this I arose and did the king's business, and I wondered about the vision, but no one understood it. Here ends the reading for today.